Okay, everyone, late video today. I had a lot of things to do this morning, so I just couldn't get a video out. But here's what we're going to do is we're going to go through the market indices, look at some sectors, some ETFs, some individual stock ideas, and we'll wrap up. Starting off with the triple Qs. All right, so looking, kind of scrolling back on this hourly chart, we broke the trend. Here's, this was your uptrend right here, and we had the sell signal. It broke. It was right there. Nice clean sell signal, and we are just flagging right now. To me, it looks like this is just kind of flagging out. So I'm just, I moved I had it down here. This trend line was down like this, and I moved it up to here. But in general, still looks like we're flagging. Looking at the price action a little closer, you can see this morning it ripped higher on the first hour, kind of gapped, and then ran higher. But then they sold it the rest of the day, and you can see how it closed. The last hour of the day, it actually sold off and closed, lower. So not lower for the day because obviously there was the gap, but still being sold into throughout the entire day except for that first hour. So what does that mean? Well, I think we head down to the bottom of the flag now, likely, and then I'm still looking for the break, for this to break. And when it does, we'll look for some lower prices. So 293.46, I believe, will be the next level of support, and then we also have a level of support down here at 287.78, and that's really all I see on the day on the hourly. I think that we're likely to continue lower, but again, it's just flagging out right now, so it just wants to. We just have to let it do its thing. The sell signal that was initiated right here, you can see big daily sell signal. We still haven't recovered that. So if you get a bounce above that candle and you start to, make higher prices, that will potentially void out that sell signal. But as of right now, just to see a kickback rally up to about the halfway point, it looks like we're going lower. And also, if you look at the daily, that's a doji as well. So these often come at the top, these have to often come at kind of the tops, and then you would look for a reversal or more selling. So again, if that's a doji, if that is a doji, and if we get a red day tomorrow, a sell-off, then that would kind of confirm that doji, and I think it's likely that we start to continue the descent in prices. So I'm looking for lower prices. Also, if you can see on the daily, and one of the subscribers told me I can double click on this. Here's the PPO. You can see there's your bearish crossover right there. So we had the bearish crossover. Oh, and then the other thing to keep in mind is, let me close this. On the PPO here, you can see the histogram is bearish as well. So we've got a bearish crossover. We have negative divergences that have remained intact. On the daily, they really, right there started to show up. So negative divergence, you've got a bearish crossover, you have a sell signal and a break of trend line support, and we're just flagging out. I think we head lower. Looking at volatility real quick, you can see here, volatility actually closed the day up. So even though the Qs was up, volatility was up. And so again, I still think that we're going to move higher. So with this one, this UVXY, I would look for a move up to about this 1630. I think we get a reaction there. From where we're at now, that's a move of about 30%. So yeah, I think that is in the cards. Looking at SPY. Okay, on SPY on the daily chart, you can see we're starting to crack. We basically cracked that trend line. So I readjusted this trend line, and this is really where I had it. And we got a daily close below there. So that's the first time that we've had a daily close below that trend line, really going back to the beginning of November. And I think that is going to usher in some lower prices in the SPY. Where do we go? Well, I would say it's pretty probable that we get down to, let me grab this one, get down to this zone right here, which is sitting at about 350.85. Probably get a little bit of a bounce there, and then we'll have to see. I am expecting that anybody who watches this channel knows I'm expecting lower prices and potentially the start of a bear market. But again, we just have to take it day by day. And so as of right now, I think we get down here on this move, and then we'll see if that holds support. IWM, here's an hourly chart of IWM, small caps, and you can see they gapped it up this morning and it sold off all day, and it broke support as well. So that's a sell signal in IWM, and especially to see how it gapped up and held that support right in the very morning and then just sold off all day. That is, that's a reversal. So if we look at the daily, yeah, we don't quite have a doji. It's not really a doji stick. You don't have to have a doji to signal a reversal, but again, we got the breakdown of this trend line right here. So I'm looking for lower prices in IWM, and I think it's likely that we head down to about, probably about this level right here at 174. We'll say 173.75, 174, somewhere down there. And that'd be a drop of from there to there. That's a drop of about 9%. So I think that looks like that's kind of the first level of support on this thing. All right, let's take a look at what I was buying today. So I was buying Barrick Gold. Really, once we got down to, let me go to the hourly here just to show you. Once we got down to this 22, I was really looking at 22.48 to start initiating buy orders. And so once we got down to that level, 22.48, I started to buy positions. And I was buying, just basically building a sizable position there. Now, it could go lower, but here's what I like about it to the long side right now. You can see the scenario that I was talking about has now played out. We have bullish divergence. So here is your momentum indicator right there. If I can adjust this right there, and you can see that's bullish divergence where the momentum is making a higher low, and yet price, as you zoom in, made a slightly marginal new low. So here's your previous low, and it's about 22.48, and today we got down to about 22.41, so a new marginal low, but it was done with bullish divergence intact. So I think it's likely that we gap up or move higher tomorrow when the market opens. But again, we could move lower. There's also a trend line right down here where that we might sell off a little bit more down to about 21, about $22, we'll call it, and and then there would likely be some support there, and that would. But if we continue to sell off anytime soon, we're probably going to go burn through the divergence, the bullish divergence, and that is possible. So keep an eye on that. That changes the posture of this from a bullish setup to potentially just continuation to the downside. So what we'd want to see is, prices to start to turn up, look for a big green day or something in this thing sometime soon to confirm these divergences, because they're not confirmed basically because the RSI hasn't started to turn back up. All right. It's still pointed down. So that's what I'm looking for. Oh, and scrolling out, we also ran into some pretty major support. You can see back here at this 22.55 area that held as resistance. It then held as support. You had this impulsive break through it, came down, held as support, also held as support again right here. So what this looks like to me is stop rate action. I think they're running stops right in here. That's a key level that a lot of people are looking at. So any kind of, that's what I'm expecting is that, even if we gap down, the buyers step in on a gap down and start bidding it back up. And I'm, looking at this being a stop rate. So I'm starting to buy in this area. XLV healthcare, second largest sector in the S&P 500. And you can see, pretty impulsive sell-off day today, nothing crazy. But I am looking for continuation to the downside. So let's see if we can't string a few more days to the downside together. Looking, if we get back down to this level right here at 107.81, I would expect it'll break to the downside because we've already tested it once. So here's where the first test, we had the kickback rally. So if we get back down there, I think it's a very high probability that it breaks and we start to fill these gaps that are down here. So you can mark those gaps out, and I think it's likely that we at least fill probably this one gap. But I think it's probable that we fill all these gaps. And so that's what I'm looking for is a move down, through these gaps and ultimately coming down to this 97 area. Financials, yeah, they look weak. And so I started shorting Citibank on Friday, and I pointed that out on the video over the weekend. If you want to go back and watch that, you can see that. But the financials look weak in general, and we had a sell-off day today. We've also broken this price support here. You can see this rising trend line here, and we've now broke it. We broke it a couple days ago, but it wasn't impulsive. Today we're starting to get a more impulsive sell signal. So big red candles is what you want to see when you're looking for sell signals, and that is down about 1%. Well, it's quite a bit for this ETF. Where do we go? Well, I think we fill this gap right here, 25.38. That's probably the first level of support where the buyers will be looking to buy this thing. So that's where I'm expecting it to go in the short term. Okay, and I talked about energy on the video over the weekend, saying that I was bearish, and I pointed out the negative divergence. Here's your negative divergence in XLE. Started to show up, and you were waiting for a sell signal to potentially initiate a short. There's your there's your sell signal in this XLE. It's right there. A break of price support, close at the low. That's what you're looking for. So sell signal in energy now. I didn't see the sell signals in some of the other oil stocks, but definitely in the energy sector as a whole. And so I would expect there to be bearish price action in stocks like XOM and CVX if the sector as a whole is bearish. There's XOM here. Big down day today, down 3.5%, but it didn't break price support. So there's your trend line. And so I would expect, maybe tomorrow we get another down day and we start to break that. But in general, I'm bearish in the short term on the oil stocks and the energy sector. Gap, GPS, you can see we're getting, so we broke on Friday and closed below support. Today we had continuation to the downside. So again, we're starting to see this thing break down. You can see here's your uptrend line, and we're starting to, to break down. First level of support is about this 1850 area, and then we got another level there at about 1550. Look for reactions around those levels as it continues to make its downward move. Okay, FedEx. This one continues to work to the downside, and so you can see here bearish rising wedge pattern right there on the hourly. You wait, and negative divergence. There's your negative divergence on the hourly. It's right there, and then if you look at the daily, I think that's there it is. Clean negative divergence on the daily. All right, and here's your PPO. You had a bearish crossover right there. Also a bearish crossover right there. So bearish confirmation on the PPO, negative divergence on the daily chart. Usually when you see it on the daily, it's good for a trend trade or a swing trade, not just a one-day trade or a few hours. So now we're seeing continuation to the downside. So your sell signal was really there. That's your breakdown, but it was not that impulsive. So the next day you could have taken it, and this basically was a confirming sell signal because it gapped down and closed lower. So that was your sell signal, and we're now continuing lower. So you can see today, lots of selling pressure. If you go to the hourly, it opened basically up here at the highs and sold off all day, just straight down. So again, they're selling this thing, and I think it's likely that we get down to 276.36, probably get a reaction around there. Going back to the daily, if we break that, we head down to 259.07, and I think that's where we at least get down to 259.07. If we break below that, there's not a whole lot of support until potentially filling this gap all the way down here at 184. It's about 183.60. So watch those levels, but I do have a short position in this, and it's continuing to work to the downside. NVIDIA here. So it broke to the upside, so we're going to just get rid of this flag. I don't think it's valid anymore. So this might play out from more downside than what that flag actually was, what it was projecting it to go to. Really big picture, this is really how I'm looking at this thing right now, is you've got negative divergence, basically. It's not it's not really the best negative divergence. Yes, you have less. In reality, it's not even, yes, it is negative divergence right here because you made an equal high as the previous peak. I usually like to see a slightly new high, but again, equal high works. So negative divergence, that's really just been extending for quite some time, and all that this thing's done is just gone sideways. It's pretty much stuck in the mud. So we're just looking for some sort of catalyst or gap down or something that actually sets the wheels in motion to the downside. So just sticking with this one for now. PayPal made a new high today. Another divergent high. You can see here, negative divergence. It's really been in play for quite some time. Another high today. I think that's likely where this gets sold into. Look for a down day tomorrow in this. And I think it's likely that we continue to the downside. But again, this thing just continues to inch higher on slightly new highs. You can see here a marginal new high, then it sold off, come up, make a new marginal high. I think it's likely to sell off. Let's look at this Coffee Joe. So I am long this thing, and it's I think it's likely we're starting a new bull market in coffee. This thing's been in a bear market. If I scroll out, you can see this thing going back to 2018. That's when they started this, but it's been in a bear market really ever since, making new lower lows. But recently that's kind of changed where you've got a low here and then a higher low, and it looks like we're starting to break out and potentially going to set in a new higher high above this 40.75, 40.70, and then create what is an uptrend. So you can see here, zooming in, looked like a bull flag to me. It's starting to break out. So here's your flag pole about there, and then I've got the flag marked out right there, and then you break out, and that is your forecast or your projection. So it's projecting about that high right up there at 40. It's about 40.70. So I'd look for an overshoot potentially, and if we break above that impulsively, that's going to be a new high of this pattern right here, creating that uptrend. So I am remaining long on this thing. One thing to take note is, yes, there is negative divergence. There it is. And so if this fails and actually breaks down, then that would confirm this negative divergence. However, if you look at the PPO, you can see here we've got a bullish crossover right there. So I'm getting mixed signals on the indicators. So I'm sticking with it to the long side. I suspect what's going to happen is this momentum is going to come through and burn through this divergence that's in play, because it's not a confirmed divergence. Usually to confirm a divergence, you'd want to see this RSI start to turn down again, and you'd want to see the PPO give you that bearish crossover. Here's BABA, and we'll wrap up with this one. So BABA, I think I said in a couple weeks or months back that it's likely, or it's probable that BABA potentially has seen the top for this bull market, and it's ready to go into a bear market, a bear market for this stock. The reason why I said that is if you roll out to like the weekly, you can see we have negative divergence there on the weekly chart. We have negative divergence on the daily chart right here. There's your negative divergence. And it was on the hourly. It was on multiple time frames. And rolling out, here is your, go to the weekly here. This is basically the move from 2000. Well, let's see. BABA went public in 2015. So here's the move higher. And if I roll out, probably find a trend line, something like that. I guess we're probably not going to be able to say that it's conclusive that it's seen its all-time high until we break that trend line right down there. I'll have to tighten it up. But you can see here on the day, this is the weekly, and we've clearly had a sell signal and a break of weekly support. So there's your trend line on the weekly. Big impulsive red sell signal there. Little kickback rally for a couple weeks, and now we're continuing to the downside. So I think we're heading down here to this trend line, down around this 210, 215, 220, depending on when we actually get there. and then we'll have to see how what happens there. Okay, everyone, that's all I got. I will catch you guys on the next one.